Today I have with me the Minister of Basic Education in Sierra Leone, Minister David Moinina Sengeh, and we're going to talk a little bit about his new book, Radical Inclusion. That is the book, and we talk a little bit about his ministerial job. So, Mr. Minister, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk about this radical inclusion, and first of all, I want to go straight into the book where you talked about, in your introduction, you talked about not included. You are not included. And you made a very powerful analogy with the Queen. You know, at some point when she was not able to attend Parliament, her crown was placed on a stool and she was not included. Can you just go into that a little bit for me?
I think the point about the book really and why it starts in that way is we often think about inclusion, exclusion conversations as it's not about us, it's about other people. It's not whether you have power, you think it doesn't affect you. But when you pause and reflect, we all can be excluded at different points in time. Some of us more often and more frequently than others. But the Queen, who is one of the most beloved people in the UK at the time, was in a milestone period for her. And yet, at the most important event that she participated in, which was the state opening of Parliament, she was excluded. And she was excluded so symbolically that her crown was put on a stool instead of her being there, while her son, now the king, read a speech that she was supposed to give. And the reason for this is that it was because she had mobility issues. Many people argued that they did not want episodic mobility issues, is what the term was. And people didn't want to see her, well, they thought people did not want to see her in a wheelchair, and that it will not be something that people will appreciate, even though her mind was there and she could read the speech well. But we as a world,
because she was not there, that's the analogy. So how do you translate that to the current education system in Sierra Leone? Because what you wrote here in this radical inclusion is basically looking at the educational sector, right?
I mean, I think it's the Queen is an example, but you and I, people can hurt themselves and suddenly, you know, they can't participate in the same way in life as they should. Many women are not included. People of color are not included. In fact, many people suggested that racism went up when a black man became president in America, and minority groups are not included. In Sierra Leone, at the time, one of the issues that we faced was that pregnant girls were actively excluded. Mm-hmm. There was a ban on people with girls with pregnancy from going to school. And it didn't matter, our government would have spent all this money to get them educated. And then they got pregnant. Then they will be asked to leave school and not write their exams.
And not write their exams, but somebody will say, with going to school pregnant, they will be influencing other girls in school to do the same, even.
That's what they say, and I think in the book, I do speak about how we have to engage with these fears. They are valid fears. Somebody can say that, and we don't discredit them to say they don't know what they are talking about. It's a fear that they have. It might not be informed by data, it might not be informed by logic, but it is valid. And I think the book speaks about using this analogy to say we in society must find ways to listen to people, even if we disagree with them, and understand and have empathy for why they maintain certain positions. So some of the things that we do is I will say, well, if it was your daughter, would you want your daughter to be out of school? And if you say yes, is it because you're embarrassed? Is it an issue of shame? Is it an issue of, my daughter can handle it? But let's say your daughter is not the one who's pregnant. If I say, if your daughter was in the class next to somebody who was pregnant, do you think she'll go and get pregnant? You're like, no, my daughter will not do that. And I think you begin to engage people in the conversation that gets them to see where their lines of argument break. It's a valid argument, but it will break at some point.
Okay.
And you're looking to stretch it to that point where it breaks, and then it allows you an opportunity to give them alternative options.
I see you also brought in disabilities, people with disabilities, how excluded they have been. They've not always been included in day-to-day walks of life, including education. Some of them, especially, I'm from Sierra Leone, of course, so I look at it from the Sierra Leonean point of view, that when you are disabled, the best job for you or the best education for you is to go to the street and beg. So that also is part of the not included program that you're talking about.
I think we see that the evidence shows over the last couple of years, because we track this data, not just us and our partners, we've been able to increase the enrollment of children, learners with disability in the public education system by over 1,500%. And we've been able to achieve gender parity. We have as many girls as boys in Sierra Leone, and in fact, who are in school, and more girls transitioning out. This is intentional policies that we did through what we call radical inclusion.
Okay, and one quick thing will be done very shortly. But recently you were on social media, and you were very active on social media. You stated that if about the new bill that has been passed in Parliament about kids not going to school, and what will happen to parents who do not allow their kids to go to school. Can you just throw light on that a little bit?
Sierra Leone has adult literacy or national literacy rates at about 50, just on the borderline. And if we want to transform our country, we need to ensure that everybody can at least read and participate in the global economy. For that to happen, all of our children must go to school, stay in school, finish school, and be given the opportunities for them to achieve their human potential. That's why we recently passed a new bill that now makes it mandatory for everybody, every child, to be able to have at least 1 year of pre-primary education and 12 years of primary and basic education in Sierra Leone. And when you don't, there are fines that we have made very explicit in the law.
And you are one minister who does not just sit in the office. I see you in the classrooms, in the lecture room, in the universities. And what has been your experience going into the classroom, working with these little kids, even in the primary schools?
I think as policymakers and leaders, we cannot lead transformation from behind a desk in an office. You cannot just write a policy and leave it to other people to do it. You can't even shape the policy. For you to understand the impact of what you're doing, you have to be on the ground. You have to be in the classroom and see how a teacher struggles on the blackboard. You have to be there to feel and smell and touch and see what the challenges are that the teachers are having, what the kids are having. You have to be able to go there and see what the bottlenecks are and say you should change that. Can you change that? It is important for us, for me, that I lead this work in education, and that's because I have a boss, President Bio, who instills this in us. He's somebody who's always in the field. He's gone to as many chiefdoms across the country as there are, and to see somebody as a president drive 5 miles to the end of a road, go in the boat for 2 hours, so drive 5 hours to where the road ends, go in the boat for 2 hours to see how development is inspiring for me and all of us. So that's the least we can do.
Well, that sounds great, and I want to believe what we're seeing from you, even as a local of that nation, is something that is really, really new, and I want you to know that we're really proud of what you're doing. And like I said about you on social media, you go there, you engage people, and you engage the public, and you make the public know exactly what is going on in your office. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
on your book, Radical Inclusion, and also congratulations on being named the world's best minister.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I hope that anytime you're here again, you will make VOA your place.
I will.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you.